So we have achieved a lot of equality, but do we think we should leave it at that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And why not? I speak about what I know. So I never experienced any issues with inequality up until I decided to have children, and obviously that's when differences start to emerge between men and women, and it's not so much during a pregnancy, but it's after the pregnancy when you actually have the child, because you want to see your child, you want to be with your child, and there is what's termed the mental load. It's always the mother who feeds the child, clothes the child, etc. However equal a relationship you have with your partner. Now, what does that mean? It means that I, for example, used to be someone who come to work 9:30, 10 every day, and I'd work straight through to whatever time was necessary. You know, usually it was about 8 o'clock in the evening, and frequently it would be far later than that. What does that mean now that I have children? It means that at 6 o'clock I will desperately want to be at home with my children in order to feed them, bathe them, sleep them. It means that once my children are asleep, if I still have work to do, I will do the work that I need to do after 9 o'clock in the evening, but I will do that work from home. Sometimes I will come back into the office, but I've now got a setup at home that I will do the work at home. That means that I'm not present in the office as often as I was, for as longer hours as I would have otherwise have been. And that does sometimes present a problem. It's an issue that I've raised before, you know, the sense of eyebrows being raised because you're racing home at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I think that from a perception point of view, it matters. It matters to people that are to female associates that are still trying to attain partnership. It matters to from a perception point of view for everyone. So I think that these sorts of issues are things that need to be addressed in our society, as well as obviously the gender pay gap, etc. But if I take my personal situation, the greatest inequality is the mental load that women deal with on a daily basis, where you have to be on top of all of these issues, as well as your child's well-being, and managing life as a professional in the office. So, do I think that successful women face any backlash? I think that there's always the characterization of successful women as bossy, as strong-willed, as having a strong character, and I mean, these sorts of denominations. But I don't think there's any backlash against successful women. And the issue that I see is that it depends how you define success. And if we define success as career success, you start becoming more successful in your career in your mid-30s, at which point you probably start thinking about having children. And it's at that point that it's very, very difficult to balance everything. But do I think there's any backlash per se? I wouldn't perceive that to be the case, no. Firstly, do I think it's important for women to be more represented? Yeah, I think it's important for women to be represented. I think it's important for it to become the norm that women are in positions of responsibility and positions of power. I think it's important for little girls to grow up seeing that it's perfectly normal for women to be in roles of responsibility. But I do think that we will get to the point that we won't, it won't be a big deal that there's a female leader or a male leader. There'll be a leader who happens to be female. and that won't be a striking feature of her leadership or his leadership. You know, the fact that that she's female won't be the remarkable feature of the leadership. But as to whether there are any stereotypes or biases that might be discouraging women from entering leadership roles, I don't think women should have stereotypes, or they should limit themselves because of any bias. Again, I think that if we are limited, it's purely, again, because of this balance of family life and work life. But again, I think that that we should all be able to find ways to work around that, to support women, whether it's society supporting women in different ways, or whether it's family life supporting women in different ways. You know, I think that we should be moving to a position where where women are more represented, and it's the norm that that women are represented, so we can move past this debate. Advice I'd give is always show up. It's very important, in the words of Sheryl Sandberg, to take your place at the table. 2, always speak up. It's well known that women tend to hold back more and not have the confidence of speaking up, but speak up. Your views are very valid. And 3, always remember who you are. Remain true to yourself, remember where you come from, and remember where you want to get to.